Max Verstappen fights back at Imola as McLaren stumble. This is Shifting Happens. Hello, everybody. My name is Baxty B, and I'm delighted to say that I am joined by Marshall, AJ, and Rory, who seems to have upgraded his pad recently. This is Shifting Happens, episode 19. We are here to talk all things Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, maybe just a little bit of IndyCar as well towards the end of the show. Your race winner at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix was Max Verstappen ahead of the McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. And the biggest story of the race happened into turn 1 and 2, with Max Verstappen pulling off a brilliant overtake on Oscar Piastri, though further analysis shows that perhaps, Rory, Oscar fell asleep a little bit on his brakes.
Well, I would agree that Oscar did. He did admit himself, didn't he, that I think in the press conference he was asked about the start, and he said that he should have braked 10 meters later than he did. But when I saw that move first, it was a clinical move. It was like we knew Max in 2021. He did that against Lewis, except that Max wasn't coming much back from a distance that Max did on Sunday. But I think with Lewis in 2021, they made contact in the sense that they had a little touch. This one, they didn't. But I think for Max to get that move done so decisively in the first lap just shows that at this stage in the championship, Max is able to take more risk than Piastri in a sense with the title. You can tell that Piastri is big in the back of his head, is thinking that I am leading this championship. I need to maximize points. Max is going to that race weekend. He was about 30 points behind the championship lead, so he knew he had a bit more risk he could take. So I think to get that move done just show that Max is like, when he knows he has a bit of room of risk, he'll take it. But I do think if that was the other way around, we'd be discussing with Max of showing Piastri the door or like that. But I do think it just shows that Max was ready to put it all on the line. But I think it was a superb move, and I don't even think we had some very good moves in that race, like Lando's move, multiple George Russell moves. I think it was for a race for Imola. We'll probably get into the discussion that I think for an Imola race, it wasn't a bad Imola race in the sense of on-track action.
No, by Imola standards, it was an absolute banger. Yeah, as you said, some absolutely unbelievable overtakes. I'm going to put this out there, Marshall, that Oscar's overtake on Yuki may have been a little bit better than Max's on. I mean, Max's is applauded rightly because of the fact that it was for the lead of the race and it was literally the first opening salvo. But given the pressure that Oscar would have been under to get that move done, I thought that was just as impressive, if not a little bit better than Max's, personally.
I don't know. The first lap is always different than setting it up, but I think that he did have the fresh tire advantage just coming out of the pits. So I don't know. And he should pass Yuki. I don't think that there's a comparison there in terms of the consequences of the race. It did help him catch back up, but it didn't matter in the end because McLaren, and we'll get to that.
But here's the thing, right, Marshall? Like if we talk about it, I think just to add a bit on what Baxty was saying, the start of the race does get a lot of highlights. The front of the field does get a lot of highlights. But I feel like downplaying Oscar's move may not necessarily be fair to him because, think about it. Last year, what rightfully, in my eyes, should have been the move of the season was Alex Albon cutting his way through two cars into chicane. I think it was Canada last year. And it still doesn't get talked about enough. Because in my eyes, that was
I was there.
brilliant.
I saw that with my own eyes. on that corner.
I was at the track as well. Obviously, not as great a view as you had, but like that's what I'm talking about. Moves behind the field, yes, they may not be as consequential when it comes to where you end up on the podium, but they do deserve some recognition because that was a really good move as well.
Yeah, it was a good move. I'm not saying it's not a good move. It's just in the phase of the race when you're on the fresher tires, having just made a pit stop, you should make that move, especially when it's against the second Red Bull. So I guess it's a set of expectations. But I mean, where he did it, and we saw Lando doesn't have that decisiveness sometimes, where he won't pick and commit in the same way. So that's a point. I just think that the move of the race was probably Max at the start, but it's not to take anything away from that other move. I think that was good stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, as AJ, as Rory said, there were loads of other brilliant moves in there as well. I mean, Lewis put on some good moves at the end of the race. But I think one of the key talking points when it comes to Red Bull is this upgrade that they've brought onto the car seems to have worked and has given them at least a chunk of time back to McLaren, because Max's race pace was outstanding. Even with the McLarens trying to chase him down, he did seem to have that gap under control. We'll talk about what happened after the second safety car shortly, but given where they were on a Friday, and this seems to be a theme of Red Bull this year, that the car seems to be undrivable on a Friday, and they seem to be finding ways to get it back to the front of the grid on a Saturday, and then giving Max the best chance to compete on a Sunday. Red Bull right now, things are looking rosy there compared to they were a few months ago. Well, about a month ago after Bahrain. Would you say, AJ?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other thing that I think we should also factor in how good the Red Bulls look is the second car in terms of Yuki. Yes, he may not be blowing minds in the top 5, but let's not forget that Red Bull is also very, very sensitive. But I think he's starting to come to grips with the car. I mean, starting from the pit lane and ending at 10th, it's still a drive that deserves some sort of plaudits. It wasn't absolutely incredible, but this is what his 4th or 5th race right now in the Red Bull. I think we are starting to see him come to grips with the car. What I would like to see, though, is how or whether or not he would be able to bring himself up a notch further to be able to compete in the top 6, because that's when you're going to see the real Red Bull versus McLaren, the dynamics between the fight, especially with 2 Red Bulls now chasing them down. If it gets to that point, McLaren can't afford to fumble the way they have been fumbling since last year.
Saw a funny meme there that made me think of you, AJ. It was the famous Gordon Ramsay meme, except it was Yuki as the little girl. Oh dear, gorgeous. P10. And then it was Sergio Perez, P8. You effing donkey.
I think I want to add on what AJ said. I think the Red Bull is definitely sensitive, and this upgrade has worked, but it has also proven that when this Red Bull, when all conditions, it's like the Mercedes of the last few years or any other car under regulation said that there's a very tight window for the cars to work. And with this Red Bull, especially in the last year and a half, this Red Bull needs a specific window to work. And we saw when the track is right, when the conditions, temperature, everything's in place, the Red Bull is a race-winning car, and still I can put a fight to the McLaren. When it's not those conditions, McLaren will absolutely destroy the field. And I remember talking to a few people, we all thought that McLaren were going to dominate this weekend. Like, it could have been like a 40-second win again. And then Red Bull, Max's pace, like you said, Baxty, Max on Red Bull on a Friday, or FP3, when you saw with Japan that the car wasn't great, but then for some reason in qualifying or the race, they find pace. It's like Mercedes of years, except Red Bull's at the front and Mercedes fighting 4th or 5th place. It's like that we would be seeing that Mercedes they would do something on the Friday, and then the car would get progressively shit in the weekend. But no, with the Red Bull, I think it's working out. And I think it's something that just wins. I think Red Bull just need to bring a special livery each weekend. We saw in Japan, they brought the white bull, they won. They changed the race numbers this weekend, and they won for it was Red Bull's 400th race weekend. So, and they won on that, but it just shows you how like that. But no, I think, and as well with Yuki and the Red Bull, yes, it's definitely an improvement of Lawson, because Lawson, I think, could be out the door by the season if he continues his pace up, going back into V-carb. But I think, Yuki, yes, I think Red Bull know themselves they're not going to win the Constructors' Championship this year. It's like that's settled McLaren, unless McLaren fumbles something and some other team finds pace. Yeah, I don't think that's it done for. It's just a driver's championship. And I think Yuki, I think he's finding his feet. The qualifying crash in Imola didn't help, but going taking too much curve and going into the wall. But like, he wasn't the only driver to crash in that session. But I do think that he will. I'd say he will need a bit. There will be a bit more incoming pressure when they know he's finding the feet that he needs to get up to the top six. Especially the drive to P10 was, I think, was the best he was going to get, considering the competitiveness of this field on a race day, especially with that Williams. What we saw the Williams pace and what we have to applaud Williams was doing. So I think Yuki will probably get. I think he'll have a few more races, but he will probably get in a few more races. There'll be a bit of talk in the background to him that he needs to probably up the positions, like to a P6, like AJ said, or a P5, fighting around that area. But at the moment, I think Red Bull are just happy that they have a car finishing in the points.
Yeah, I think that he did a great job to get up to 10th, but you have to look at the fact that he rode off the car in qualifying, and that set him on the back foot for the weekend. And you wonder if this, if he didn't have that setback on Saturday, if he would have been right in the mix for the lower end of the top 5, even, or top 6. Like, he could have been there or thereabouts based off of his pace if he didn't have an off strategy and getting stuck in traffic early. So you're looking at it as Red Bull as, he did a great recovery drive and his pace looked excellent. So you just have to make sure that doesn't happen again, that he's supported enough, that he's not pushing too hard in qualifying to have those consequential results. Because obviously you're bringing a new upgrade, and then when you go and smash up all those parts, it's not good for the analysis either. So I hope that doesn't have lasting repercussions for him, because we know Red Bull are not patient when it comes to that second driver either. And if you start costing the team parts and cost cap money on crash damage, then it gets a little bit more serious. So good and bad for Yuki this weekend, but the pace is there. So hopefully he can show that in Spain and or Monaco, I guess, first. But I don't know. Monaco's kind of a lottery. It's all based on qualifying, but we'll see how he does. And probably Spain is probably the next sort of regular track where you can see what the upgrades have done. And yeah, hopefully he's got it under control.
So here's a little thing that I just want to touch a little bit about Yuki to add on to what you were saying, Marshall. Is I completely get what you mean, and you can see that he's trying really hard. The one thing that I hope he does on his end is take a deep breath and not push the car or push himself too hard to a point where you get another mistake like Saturday. Because you can see when you watch the replays that he was just trying to extract as much as he could out of the curbs and trying a slightly different line. Maybe you don't need to do that on your first flyer of the first session on the weekend during qualifying. Maybe he just needs to take a deep breath, sit back for a little, push a little bit later into the session. Fine. But there are promising signs, and I hope like what Rory said, in a couple of races, and like what you said, maybe in Spain, we'll see him do better.
Yeah, it's interesting some of the points you guys have some of the points you guys have made there. Rory talking about upgrades and stuff in the Constructors' Championship. I mean, there were reports swirling in the last few days about technical directives being issued about brakes and everything else, but nobody quite knows what that was about, even though the McLaren was declared legal. So it's all about what's going on there. And then obviously there's the flexi wing technical directive coming in Spain, which some people think is going to be a silver bullet. It probably isn't. So it'll be fascinating to see how this all plays out. But gentlemen, it is time, I think, for our first cookout of the session that features McLaren as the main course. Because oh my god, this was not a good week. I mean, Saturday was great. Well, Lando was a bit stinky on Saturday, but Oscar pole, yeah, great. And then it all went a little bit wrong because Oscar fell asleep into turn one. And then they tried the undercut, which wasn't a bad idea because Leclerc had benefited massively from the undercut. So you're thinking, okay, right, fine. Yeah, you should try and undercut Max at that point. And then their pit stops just went to shit twice. They had a decent pit stop with Lando, one of them, but it was an awful pit stop.
No, it was 3 times went to shit.
Well, yeah, 3 times. They had one good pit stop. That's the point I was trying to make there. And so the strategy of Oscar went a little bit wrong, and then they didn't double stack them under the safety car, which made no sense to me. And I'm presuming that was because Oscar didn't have any tires. But and then the biggest crime of all, and they haven't learnt the lesson from Japan, despite the fact that Ted Kravitz came on, and I'm not going to blame Ted for this. He's just relaying what he was told. It's like, we have learnt the lessons from Japan. No, you haven't, Andrea Stella. You have not learnt the lessons from Japan, because you had the opportunity to switch the cars in Japan and you didn't do it. You said you learned the lesson. You had the perfect opportunity with a guy on a faster strategy to go and chase the race win. You can debate whether he would have got it or not. Probably not. But you didn't do the switch and you made them race and handed the race win to Verstappen on an absolute silver platter. Ridiculous from McLaren. It was a terrible weekend. Marshall, I know you've been looking forward to carving off a slice of McLaren, so floor is yours.
Well, I think first we should focus on the fact that they ended up with the result they probably would have got anyway, which is a 2-3. And through all of their disaster class, the pace in their car is such that even on their worst day strategy wise, they still end up with a 2-3 finish. Now, I would argue that Piastri has every right to be criticizing the team, and he didn't, to his credit, after the race, because that strategy really put him at a disadvantage, like why they brought him in when they did and lost the track position. And they didn't double stack. There was several opportunities where they could have solidified that second position, and then they ended up with the car that's behind in the championship having the better strategy, and then not having the fortitude to just say, okay, Oscar, we screwed it up. He's on fresh tires, you're not. He's faster. um, he's got a better chance to win. You're going to have to let him by, because they didn't even want to have that discussion. They wanted to let it play out. And, I don't think, like you said, I think Max had them covered. But, they don't make it easy for themselves. And they're messing around with both of these drivers by not being clear with who has the priority. And it's like, it almost feels to me like they're kind of making it up as they go along, and then when circumstances dictate, they're in a position that they didn't want to deal with, but it's of their own creation, right? If Oscar has pole, then you should give him priority. Like, it's that simple. Like, you give the driver who has the better qualifying the priority on the strategy. And it feels like they just didn't know what to do quite at any point. And let's not forget, like, they screwed Lando too by pitting him a lap before the VSC came out. So it's like, he could have won this race if he had stayed out. Like, I don't know. It just, they seem way too reactive, and they don't seem to have a strategy and stick to it. they kind of seem to be very indecisive, and then retroactively have to deal with correcting their mistakes or not correcting their mistakes rather than setting the tone, which is, I think, something that Mercedes and Red Bull were extremely good at, is just being clear with the strategy up front, not saying that you won't adapt it, but saying, hey, you have the priority, you were ahead. Or, especially in the Nico and Lewis wars, you knew what to expect if you were either of them. There were clear rules of engagement, and sometimes they tangled on the track. But at least when it came to the team and the strategy, you knew the guy who qualified ahead was going to get the priority on the pit stops. It's just they were very clear about that. And there's no problem with doing that. It just seems like they don't want to codify or clarify it, so you're just kind of left wanting, I guess. And they have to fix that, because this is going to go down to the wire between the two of them. Like, I think it's clear, and I'm going to get crucified for saying this, but Lando is faster, I think, on ultimate pace than Oscar. He's mucked up qualifying a few times, but on race pace, Lando is usually faster. It's just he hasn't given his track position. He hasn't capitalized on it, or it hasn't resulted in it. But this fight is going to go right to the end, and McLaren is going to have to figure out some operational rules of engagement that makes it clear to the drivers what they're fighting with, or it's all going to blow up, because they're not going to know what to expect.
I agree. And the first thing they need to do is they need to kill off the threat from Max Verstappen, because, stuff like this will continue to happen where he will mug them off and prost his way to a title, essentially, whilst they're busy squabbling with themselves. I mean, the one that really infuriated me was that post-safety car. Why did you not switch the cars? Like, Lando had the faster strategy. He had the fresher tyres. Does he go and pass Max Verstappen to win the race? Probably not. But at least let him have a go. And you're showing Red Bull, you're saying, no, we're operationally on it. We are operationally on this. We need to challenge them. And, it's just, I thought Miami was a turning point in terms of McLaren showing that they've got unbelievable pace and are going to dominate, and also strategically brilliant as they were. But then, they then didn't do that this time. They kind of went back to their usual sort of, don't know. And it was a mess. AJ, Rory, chime in on this.
Rory, do you want to go ahead? Because I feel like I've always talked smack about McLaren's pit wall and how they will be their own downfall. I've been singing this tune since last year. It's nothing new from my end.
It's not new from my end as well, but I know, like, with Marshall's comment with Lando being faster, I actually don't disagree. I just think at this moment that Lando is actually, he's not clinical. He needs to just get his qualifying sorted, because I've said multiple times that this qualifying battle will have a negative end on Lando if he's not on this game, because we see how close the field is in qualifying. Yes, the field is close on a race day, but in qualifying it's a matter of tenths or half tenths. It's Oscar, is it Lando? He says he wasn't fast enough, so he just needs to. I think he just needs to get out of his own head and just say that, like, just get your banker lap in on the first lap, and then in your final run, get a lap that's decent enough to get pole or get the highest position possible. As someone who has criticized Lando in the past and like that, I just think that's my only gripe with Lando, is that he's not as clinical as he needs to be when it matters most. Piastri, I think, yes, he has improved this season, but we saw on Sunday that Lando had the ultimate pace. Now, with the Oscar being pitted, I think the reason with one of the reasons the McLaren fumble and strategy was that I remember Oscar sent a radio message and he said Plan A doesn't look like it's going to work because of the tire degradation. And I think McLaren, for once, when we have criticised McLaren of not listening to their drivers, over-listened to their driver and pitted Piastri when they shouldn't have pitted Piastri, because when he came out, he was down in the field and stuck in traffic, and he had to come through the field. And while Max and Lando were up basically in clean air because of the gaps. But no, yeah, I agree. It's they have papaya rules. We think papaya rules are just let's decide what we want to do on the day. And we had Zach Brown was there this weekend, and I was fully expecting like Zach Brown like to just nudge Andres to say, "Can we switch cars here?" But no, I agree with you, Baxi and Marshall. If they should have swapped at least at the safety car restart. Just said over the radio, "Yes, Oscar, we got the strategy wrong with you today, but Lando was the faster car." It could have been a situation if Lando didn't get the place back, just switch the cars back, in a sense that if Lando didn't get the gap or something, that could have happened, like we've seen with Mercedes before. But just in that situation, just at least swap the cars and just say we might swap the cars back if he doesn't get the place back, and then deal with it then. But yeah, I think it could be the debt of McLaren in a sense of their strategy. If they don't get that right, and we're in the midst of, say, by summer break or the end of the season, Max could be just reeling himself in, which he is. Max is, considering how Max has only won 2 races and has had a few terrible weekends, he's not too far off the championship lead going near Monaco. Now, I think Monaco might be an outlier for Red Bull. Red Bull's not expecting a good result in Monaco, but anything can happen in F1. We've seen that in more sports in the recent days. So yeah.
So, like, here's the other thing that I want to add to this, right? We are still pre-summer break. We are still pre-Spain. There are teams who have not brought all their upgrades yet. There are teams who will be getting better. If McLaren don't sort their shit out, for the lack of a better term, if they don't sort it out, they are going to be screwed, because I fully expect at some point for George to win a race. I fully expect one of the Ferraris to win a race. I'm also expecting the Williams, if they keep on this trajectory, to get on the podium at some point. So if this keeps happening and McLaren keep screwing their strategy up, it is handing the championship on a silver platter to Max. That's what's going to happen. And both their drivers are going to be livid. And you're going to go from potentially, again, this is whataboutism, right? If they don't get it straight, and you end up handing a drivers' championship that is supposed to be one of the McLarens to lose, technically speaking, you hand it on a platter to Max because of your inability to sort your things out and to get your pit wall coordination straight. From having the strongest driver pairing on the grid, someone's going to leave because they're not going to be happy with it. And they have to think about this long term.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they were too slow last year, because I don't think they really thought they could catch Max in the Drivers' Championship last year. And then when it looked like Lando might do it, they thought, oh, well, we better impose rules. I think they're getting to the point now where I think, okay, look, we've got Monaco coming up. Monaco's a bit of a unique situation. But I think basically post-Spain, I think they're going to have to start making decisions and basically just go, look, whoever is ahead in the championship is the number one driver and will get preferential treatment. At the moment, that's Oscar. He's won 4 races this year, 2 Lando's 1. So you have to say at the moment, he's the guy worth backing. And I think also from a racecraft perspective, I think he's the guy that can probably beat Max over the course of the season. But they've got to sort themselves out. Now, spot the Ferrari fan who said he thought Ferrari are going to win a race this year, because I want that hopium.
Baxley, the one thing that I will say this is, right, if you objectively look at the Ferraris across the entirety of the season, Their Fridays have been abysmal. Their Saturdays haven't been great. But when you look at their race pace on a Sunday, they somehow or other pull some sort of performance into the car on a Sunday that gets them where they need to go.
Yeah and no, because I mean, Saturday's terrible. That's
Saturday is horrendous.
Yeah.
If they can fix their Saturday.
I mean, look, they did get a bit lucky on Sunday. Lewis certainly got very lucky on Sunday. Charles got unlucky and still delivered a pretty good result. But even though I think he was, it was the right decision not to give him a penalty. But he was a lucky boy not to get one. I felt that's the sort of incident I could see the stewards punishing. The one with Albon.
If Charles didn't get back the position, I think he was definitely getting a penalty.
Exactly.
Probably.
He gave it back, so that's why.
I wouldn't think it was going to be 10 seconds. It could have been a 10-second penalty for Charles, considering how the racing rules are. But no, I agree. I think he was lucky not to get a penalty in that situation. But to get the position back, I think Ferrari just preempted that and said, if we get the position back, we're not going to get one.
Yeah, it was the right thing to do. And you mentioned Mercedes. This is going to be like a sort of backstage shows concern section called Mercedes Concern, because the one concern that Mercedes have had this year was we don't know how this car's going to run in hot temperatures. It was the big problem last year. We needed cold temperatures. That is what we needed. When Vegas was an icebox, we were the best car by a long, long way. Unfortunately, first time we get some real heat in the car, we're struggling. I mean, Kimi had a DNF. George's car was all over the place. I mean, the pace was just not there. His top 5 streak is over. It's not. He the only driver to be top 5 every session, and he wasn't this time around, which was very disappointing. So, Toto leaves for one race, and it all goes to crap.
Which is usually the opposite. Whenever Toto leaves, you actually want to race.
Normally win when he leaves. Yeah, we do have a dog shout out there, the resident dog, with Marshall.
But Baxter, correct me if I'm wrong. Like in terms of upgrades, I don't think Mercedes has brought any major upgrades yet.
They brought upgrades this weekend.
But it wasn't a major upgrade.
On the car
it wasn't major, but it
wasn't a major upgrade. And
I think the major one was Spain, I think.
Yeah, exactly. First upgrades of the season, like in a sense. This was the first putting new stuff on the car since Bahrain. So
Ferrari don't have any upgrades yet.
Was there not an upgrade on the car this weekend?
Ferrari has brought upgrades. It just hasn't worked. They are bringing an upgrade package, I think, for Spain, Asia. They're bringing a whole new revised rear suspension, which is going to take a lot of development time up, because that's expensive to do. Because of their problem that they have with this car, they're bringing a totally new redesigned rear suspension.
I mean, I feel like Mercedes are going to do what they did in 2021, is they'll bring one massive upgrade package and then basically burn it off and get ready for next year. Because I think they're very quietly confident in their engine package for next year, that they're going to have a very strong engine, and they know that they can. Yeah, they're getting to grips with the aero. I know there's going to be less reliance on ground effect. So I think they're definitely probably going to put all their eggs in the 2026 basket, as are Aston Martin are already doing. I think, whilst it's nice to see the team doing better and, even on a bad weekend, still being as fast as Ferrari, or if not a little bit quicker in some cases. Sorry, I had to get that one in. I am concerned for the team and the optimism that I thought that George and Kimi might win a race this year. I mean, Kimi's sprint pole in Miami was fantastic, but I'm a little concerned going forward. We might not have the results that we would like. But
I don't know, man. I still think George gets one this year. Yeah,
I think it's probably going to be somebody tangling. It'll be like Austria. I think that somebody's going to tangle in front of him, and he's just going to be like, "Oh, hi, I win, thanks." He will be consistent and he'll put himself in the right place. Maybe it'll work. Who knows? Maybe Vegas when it's an icebox. If we can just race in ice boxes all the time.
I mean, if temperatures drop in Canada this year, that's another thing.
He's strong there as well. Yeah, you're getting my hopes up. I don't like this. Okay. Now we are going to be making a very quick trip to Marshall's corner. And I don't know if the vid is going to be played today. It doesn't matter. Marshall, floor is yours, because I know you want to talk about the VSC safety car difference between Ocon and Antonelli. Oh, Marshall, we can't hear you, my friend.
We've lost you.
Yeah. Having some technical difficulties here.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Yep. Stupid thing. Anyway. Yeah, so I mean there was a lot of discussion on the Twitter box and on threads and such about the difference between the two recovery efforts and how one was a VSC and one was a safety car, and then there was the second complaint, I guess you would say, amongst fans that the safety car took too long. And those two things are related based on the fact that the cars did stop in the same part of the racetrack or the same general vicinity coming out of turn 7. So first of all, they tucked Ocon's car into the hole in the gap in the wall, and where Antonelli's car ended up would have been like playing musical cars to move those around and move things back. So they probably instantly knew, okay, we've got one car and we've got it plugged in the hole here. If we have another car stop here, which in 2025 Formula One, what are the chances that you have two cars retire with mechanical failures in the same place? Like very remote. The next spot to tuck a car wasn't until the next corner, pretty much like the entry to the next corner on driver's left. So they needed to bring the crane that's used for incidents in that corner all the way down to where his car was, hook it up, bring it all the way back, and then tuck the car in the nearest hole, and then drive the crane back to where it's supposed to be parked, which is at the corner where the incidents where the cranes are going to be required most of the time. So it's where they are stationed. Like I think it was which corner was it? The Aqua Minerale, the next corner up the hill. But the whole thing is, if Ocon hadn't been there, it probably would have been a VSC, because that place would have been available to push and tuck the car in. It's the whole fact that it was already taken up with another car that meant that they had to dispatch a crane, and they did it instantly because they knew that they were going to have to do that because race control has all the posts and everything, and they would have seen, oh, the car stopped here, we already have a car tucked here, so we're going to have to bring a crane. Okay, safety car. Like it's just is a no-brainer decision, because you have to put a crane on the track, and that's going to be a safety car. Where with Ocon, you had a place to put it, so you didn't need a safety car. Once that place is filled, it's like, it's like finding all of you're playing Frogger with the, you got the car tucked in this hole. Well, you can't go there. You got to go down to the next one, put it there. And to do that, it's uphill. So you're not going to get marshals to push it uphill, because that's a disaster. Like if you're pushing it and it rolls backwards, like you're in another world of hurt. Plus, I don't know if people realize this, but marshals only push cars backwards because against traffic, because you want to have line of sight to what's coming at you. So you have, if you're going to send people out to push a car, you have to push it in the direction of traffic so that you can see what's coming, or against the direction of traffic so that you can see what's coming. You're not going to push a car all the way up the hill with traffic at your back. You're just not going to do that. And so that it just, the positioning, everything made it a no-brainer. Anybody who's complaining about it just doesn't understand how these things work. And I think it was really quick and impressive that Marquez, the race director, recognized that right away and made that call instantly, because he knew, based off of where the car was parked, that they were going to need a safety car. As for why it took forever, this is because of the post-Charlie protocol with the infamous any and all rule of the back markers. that get to unlap themselves. And, the way that it worked out is the crane got off the track and back into its regular parking spot just as they were about to complete another lap, which meant that they had to delay. The back markers are allowed to pass until the next lap. And then because we know about Abu Dhabi that, everybody's really touchy about the, one full lap after the back markers have been allowed, then you can go green. So if we're going by the book and we're going how the rule is written, that means you need a lap to unlap cars and then another lap for them to catch up, and then you can go green, because that's what's in the regulations and that's what we all fought for and that's what we all said should have happened at Abu Dhabi. So why are you all complaining now? Like, this is the thing, is that is a dumb rule. I agree with you. It's a dumb rule that we let all of the back markers pass and that it delays us starting a race on a safe track. But it is the rule. So if it is the rule, then you're going to complain when they say, you know what, the track is safe. Let's improvise a solution and go back to racing when the track is safe to do so, and tighten up this unlapping procedure so that we get a lap of racing in. And you say that that's the worst thing ever. But then you say, oh, well, it took 3 laps after the course was clear to go back to green. And like, yes, one of those laps was for the crane to get back to where it came from. The second lap was to allow Behrman to unlap himself. And the next lap is the soonest under the regulations you can start the race. And that allows Behrman to catch back up to the end of the pack. So if you want the rules to be applied the way they are in the rule book, then you're going to get longer safety car periods, or you get rid of the back marker rule. That's another option. And you just send back markers to the back. I suggested this and people were upset about it because it would screw back markers and give them no hope. But I'm like, you're a back marker anyway. If you're a lap down, why are we giving you your lap back? Like, what have you done to earn that? But, if we say that this rule is how we want it to be, then you just have to accept that you're going to have really long safety car periods and accept it. Stop complaining. It's what you wanted, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah, cheers, Marshall. Yeah, every time you mentioned Abu Dhabi, I broke out into a cold sweat there. I don't like being reminded of that incident. Let's talk about something slightly cheerier, shall we? Let's just give a little corner just to celebrate Williams, because they had a really good result. Alex Albon with another top 5 finish. First time he's done 2 in a row, settling out Williams. So yeah, they seem to be heading in the right direction. They had a horrible end to the season last year. But it seems like James Vowles, after the second tricky, difficult second album, his third album seems to be maturing quite nicely, AJ.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy to see both of them there. Funnily enough, both of them don't have an appendix anymore. That's probably why they have a lot more speed in the car. Why the Williams is going as fast as they are going. But yeah, no, on a serious note, it's really nice to see Williams back up in the fold again. Yeah, I shouldn't be saying that as it's one of the rival teams for the golden eras, whatnot. It's nice. It's nice to see a Williams get back to competing. I really hope that they get a podium at some point this year, because both Alex and Carlos are brilliant drivers. And honestly speaking, it's a really good pairing. It's a really good driver pairing. In the long run, maybe, hopefully we see them fighting for wins again. I don't think that's going to be this season. I think that hoping for a podium is the best that we could ask for right now in a Williams. No, man, to see where they are now from where they were before Vowles stepped in, it's brilliant to see Alex racing the way he is. It's really good to see, because there was a point in time where people overlooked Alex and just brushed him off as, he's done, he doesn't have what it takes, or he's always going to be a back of the field driver. He's now showing that he has what it takes to be up there. He is a good driver. I'm glad to see him finally show that on track, because as many people have that as there are who have written him off, there's also an equal number of us who have been saying that there is a driver in there. He just needs the right car, and he will show that he is a good driver. I don't know. I'm happy for him, man. I can't say anything else. I'm just genuinely happy for him. And it's nice to see that both him and Carlos are doing well. There's really not much else that I can say about it. I think we were hoping that they would do better, especially after last season. And it's paid off. I think, if ever Toto vacates his seat, I think Williams will be losing votes, and that's going to be tough.
Yeah, bring James home. I absolutely agree.
What do we think of Albon's off-roading attempt at the pass at the end there on Leclerc? Do you think that he would have had a chance at a podium, or do we think that it probably would end up the same?
No, I think Lewis would have passed him anyway.
Fourth.
I think fourth would have been, but I do think with the his overtake, I think Alex was entitled to some room in that situation. But I agree. I think fourth would have been his best result. I think Lewis would probably have gone because of Lewis's pace. I think they would have probably would have swapped the two cars, and Lewis would have got Albon. I was hoping that
they would have just had a tea break.
The thing with Ed Williams is that I do think if they got a podium and say it was like a car that DNF'd, I wouldn't say you could say that it was just because the car DNF'd. I think you could actually say that it was deserved on merit in a sense, because they have the pace to be a fourth place car, and to get a podium you have to be in that position. And sorry, AJ, but this is kind of a dig at Ferrari. Williams is proving the point. You don't need to change 99% of your car to be fast, because Williams are carrying last year's chassis and just changed most of the car around, and they're actually beating Ferrari.
Hey, Ferrari still got more points. The Ferrari still got more points over the weekend over the Williams, man. I'll take that.
Yeah, but you were fighting for the championship last year, and you bottled it already in 7 races. So
I'm not giving up hope yet. I mean, not championship, but I'm not giving up hopes for winning races.
Race 23 out of 24, and AJ's gonna be like, "I'm not giving up."
Hey, no, I'll wait until Canada. Canada. I'll give it until Canada.
It'll be like the Maple Leafs trying to win a stand. Sorry, I had to get that in.
I have a friend who was just become a Maple Leaf fan. I just literally said to them today, it's going to be like every year is your next year. Unfortunately,
let's have a eulogy here for the Toronto Maple Leafs and for Fernando Alonso, the world's unluckiest driver.
We don't have time to cook him, but that old fraud needs to shut up.
I'll just say something quickly about Aston. That they actually brought an upgrade. They brought an upgrade that actually brought pace to the car in qualifying.
I know, right?
Did we finally have you say that Fernando is a fraud? Did I hear that right, Baxi?
Yeah, I said it. He's not a fraud, but he's just being an idiot as always when he gets frustrated.
Melodramatic.
He needs to retire, man. His time has come. He's a fossil. He needs to retire.
Melodramatic Fernando is fun though. In a sort of like
we'll miss him when he's gone.
Yeah, he's so self-defeating, but it's like it's at least amusing.
Hey, Fly has seconded it. He says Fernando would quit this season.
He has said that. If he's right on that, then we owe him all of the drinks, because that's a phenomenal effort. Now I want to focus this next little bit towards Marshall and Rory, because this is your domain. Because Monaco next week or this weekend, not the only big motorsport event happening, because we do have the Indy 500. We have qualifying over the weekend. The story of that, unbelievably, I mean, we've been cooking Ferrari. Let's talk about Robert Schwartzman, former Ferrari young driver, sticking it on pole with Prema in their first ever season. As I said on socials, That's like Cadillac turning up with Colton Herta to Monaco and sticking it on pole. I mean, that's an unbelievable effort from Schwartzman. So your thoughts on that, and then just a little bit on the Penske controversy, because they're in trouble. They are in big trouble. I'll let you guys can have free reign on that one.
Baxty, real quick, can I also ask for their opinion on Takuma Sato going in for second place in qualifying for the Indy 500? Because when I saw that, I got hella excited.
If we're hitting the Sato thing, Sato is him. He at the Indy 500, he is a 48-year-old Honda executive who just spends his active time, not retirement, but just races cars, and you love to see it. He also is proving that the RLL actually has oval pace, and it's just the other programs of their cars are not great in a sense. But no, Sato, I think, excellent job. Schwartzman on pole, first time, 42 years a rookie, put on pole. It just shows you that the Indy 500 qualifying is one of my favorite times of the year, especially the first day of qualifying, because you have 7 hours, 6 hours of qualifying. They go through the field, and then it's like anyone who wants to set a time, see can they move it up. There in Indy 500 qualifying, there's 2 lanes. You have you do your first runs, and then the guaranteed runs, and then you have your first lane, second lane. First lane is like you can keep your time, but you can just and if you set a fastest time, you move up. But if you go to your lane, I think it's lane 2 or is it lane 1? Well, anyway, the other lane is that you if you want to go and you forfeit your time to seek that you believe you can go better. So the previous times we've had Reese VK, who used to race for ECR, Ed Carpenter Racing. He crashed in qualifying early in the morning on his guaranteed run. They got the car fixed, and they just because he didn't set a time, they just put him in lane 1, and he set a time, and then they put him in. They believed that the car could go quicker, and with half an hour to go, they put him in, and he forfeited his time that he set, and he went into the fast 12. It's just the trepidation of it. And then you have that sets the first up to 30 place, and then you have your fast 12, which in this case was a fast 10 because of what we're going to talk about, the Penske situation and so forth. And one of the Penske's, Scott McLaughlin, who had crashed in early morning practice and roll off his car, and the car wasn't going to be fixed in time, so they said they'll just start wherever they're going to start. And then you have your last day, your bump day as well, which is basically you have to bump a car out of the field to get into the 30 for the last row of 33rd place, 32nd and 31st. But no, I think Schwartzman getting pole, it just shows you that anything can happen in IndyCar. Yes, people say it's a spec series, but it's actually not really spec series at the same point. But no, Schwartzman getting pole, Prema, I honestly Prema hadn't had the best start of the season. We can admit that, but they got it's with Schwartzman. He's never driven on an oval before, but it's with some drivers. They just turn up to the oval and they just find their feet immediately. And I think that's what Schwartzman found. It'd be interesting to see can Prema continue this pace into the race, which the drivers from their comments in the last today and yesterday, they think they have a good car in the race. But if they can snag a podium or get a top 10 finish, I think it'd be an amazing achievement for Prema.
Yeah, I think Schwartzman, incredible. Just absolutely stunning qualifying result. Good for him, good for Prema. I think the rest of the field needs to it got a wake-up call, definitely, in terms of a new team coming in and showing them around their own backyard. That's incredible. One thing I would caution, though, is that the old guard, so back in the day when points were handed out for qualifying, there seemed to be a lot more correlation between the fast guys in qualifying and the fast guys in the race. Without points being handed out for qualifying, I don't know if we're going to see the same teams with the advantage. I think it's incredible what Schwartzman's done. But the lack of experience will show in traffic, in dirty air, drafting, the changing conditions, low fuel stints, high fuel, all the stuff you have to do at Indianapolis that makes mastering it so difficult. And maybe we'll see where they stand in the real pecking order. I think looking at the practice times and the full fuel and the race setup, you can't discount Ganassi. Anyone who thinks Palou is not going to be there or thereabouts, he will be. But as for, I actually had Sato as my dark horse because he is just a specialist at the speedway. And it's that sort of thing. Like if you look at one-offs who've come in and run the 500, you've got like Castroneves won it a few years ago. Sato won it a few years ago in the COVID year, the bubble year, where there was nobody in the stands. And it's one of those things where experience counts for a lot. And we've seen that the guys who are there are always kind of there. So it'll be interesting. I don't know what to expect. This is one of the most intrigue sort of grids for the Indy 500 I've seen in a long time. But I don't know if it really reflects what we're going to see on race pace. And, I'm not saying that to pour cold water on the accomplishment, but just, don't assume that that's a reflection of race pace because they're running a completely different setup for qualifying in the race, like completely different. They're 10 miles an hour faster in qualifying. Like it's not comparable.
They have the boost as well. They have the extra
Yeah, the
horsepower
extra
as well.
boost, and it's not comparable. So just caution that some of the cars are compromising for the race pace and not too concerned about qualifying. So
I think as
we'll
well,
see.
Marshall, we had that issue. The one we'll talk quickly about Penske. It is also what Ploy saw with the Chip Ganassi cars. They were very conservative in their run as well. That they said we're in the fast six, but let's just see where we go. We're not going to go for. Of course, they thought it kind of felt like me that because the Penske cars weren't there, that they knew that they had a guaranteed shot of getting into the fast six. Anyway, that they said we'll just get the position and then we'll just focus on the race because we have that pace in the car.
Yeah, and every run that you do is a risk of crashing, right? And if you lose a chassis like Herta and McLaughlin did this late in the game, you're starting way behind.
As well.
And Armstrong as well, yeah.
Having going to a road car, not even a speedway car, just a road like his normal race car, which will probably go to Detroit after this.
That basically kills your chance of winning, right? Like you're basically going into the race with a car that you've barely run in. And you have a couple practice sessions and then off you go, and all the best parts that you have, especially if you're a mid-sized team as opposed to Penske, like it's gonna hurt them a lot more. So yeah, it'll be I think that it's a lot of risk getting into the fast six because then you're like, well, now I have another chance of crashing. So you're doing an extra run. You're almost happier to finish seventh.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, I'm locked in. I know where I'm starting and I don't have to run at 240 again.
Yeah. And then we have Penske, who who are in their second, what we call, cheating is it's at the base, but it's not a good look when it's your second technical infringement in 2 years. Let's just say that in IndyCar, but it's complicated and it's not helping that this has happened ahead of one of the most intriguing IndyCar Indy 500 that is going to happen. It's just it kind of has this shadow over the previous year's races as well. But what's your thoughts, Marshall, on the Penske situation?
So I think it actually reflects more poorly on IndyCar as an
organization. I do agree with that as well. Yeah, sorry.
Because both this is the second time that Penske's been caught cheating, but it's the second time that Penske's been caught cheating after cheating for at least 6 months to a year, where they've been identified as doing something illegal, but that it's actually been done for much longer. Like the hybrid testing that they had the technical glitch or unlock on the push to pass was before was it was before the race at Laguna Seca in 2023. And then they were caught in St. Pete, but they weren't actually caught in St. Pete. They were caught in Long Beach and then retroactively had their points for St. Pete taken away. And that was probably the case in Laguna Seca, the last race of the year in 23 as well. They probably had that on there then too. And the only reason that Power didn't get a penalty as well in St. Pete is because he never used it, but it probably was still available to him. So this technical, glitch, let's call it a glitch, but it existed and wasn't caught, and it was easily catchable, like easily catchable if they had just looked for it. And it just shows that they're not looking for it. They're not looking for things. So the fact that Penske gets away with it twice means that they're the only ones pushing the envelope, and that there is no infrastructure in the series to deal with it. So it's like you've got this, this attenuator. It's probably like from what I've read, there's really no performance gain to this part. It's just supposed to be a spec part, and they put like a lightweight sort of carbon sheath over it to make it smooth, because they didn't like the aesthetics of it. That because they basically said that it looked crappy. So they keep, so what the attenuator is that big ugly cone that sticks out of the back of an Indy car that the rain light sticks on the end of. And it's just a crash structure. It's like when they hit the wall backwards, it's a crush structure that dissipates the energy so that they're not hitting directly with the rear wing of the car. So it's something that hits the wall first, crushes and absorbs impact so that it doesn't affect the car as badly or the driver as badly. It reduces the G-force, and it, provides a crash structure in excess to what like a Formula One car would do as a response to the speeds that they're doing in IndyCar, right? That on ovals especially. So they've continually adapted and modified this part for safety, to have a bigger impact, like better impact results. And they've changed it 4 or 5 times, and it was this latest adjustment to it that they added these coverings to it that had like gaps, just small gaps between sort of the carbon fiber outside of the structure. And Penske didn't like the look of it and just put like their own covering over it, basically. And they did this sometime in 2024. And
which was on the car present when Newgarden won the Indy 500.
When Newgarden won the Indy 500 last year.
No, so we don't know about the other cars, because we only have the Indy 500 car that won last year because it's in the IMS museum at the moment.
Yeah, it's in the museum, which is so funny. But
Marshall Pruitt went and found it.
Yeah, he went to the museum and found the 2024 winning car and took a picture of it and said, "Hey, they did the same thing last year." And there's pictures of Scott McLaughlin's car from a couple of the races last year, as well as another one of Newgarden after a crash. And like basically all the attenuators had this covering over it. I mean, I think if your series is not policing something to this degree, pulling them out of line in Fast 12 qualifying just makes your series look ridiculous. Like, it just reflects poorly. It more than reflecting poorly on Penske, which obviously it does because Tim Cindric is now suspended for his second straight Indy 500.
Yeah.
It looks bad on your governance. And when people say, F1 should get rid of the FIA, well, this is the kind of thing that happens when your own series runs your technical inspection. Like the same people that you go to for technical inspection are the ones you go to for the marketing stuff, for the, if you were going to Liberty for like, oh, we could make a lot more money if we had like it's the conflict of interest is clear if you have the series, and it's not even Roger Penske. Like, separate this out. Say that it was Ray Hall, or say that it was Dale Coyne, your favorite punching, doing this. It's like, well, why didn't you catch it before now?
Why are you not looking for it? Why you what like why is your technical inspection not more stringent? Like, why did you only know? Why did you only notice this now at the Indy 500 when it's been on the car for like
a year and a half?
Like, did one of the tech inspectors only just look at it today? Like,
and basically it was like, basically what happened is one of the other competitors looked at it and said, "Hey."
It was Ganassi, I think. Yeah, it was
Chip
Ganassi himself. He
oh, really?
On the car. Yeah, he spotted on the car and he went to the technical inspection and said, "Yeah, that's not right."
It's so funny that like they need to police themselves, but it also shows like if you can't trust in the series officials, then you're going to devolve into chaos. And then you have the added layer of the fact that the team in question is owned by the boss. So it's not good. It's not a good look for IndyCar. It's not a good look for Penske. But it's got to get sorted out. I think there's been rumblings behind the scenes about Penske's ownership in terms of their competitive prospects and owning the series and how that's a conflict. We'll see what happens there. I think it would be a cold day in hell before Roger Penske stopped running his team. And he's never going to sell the Speedway or the series as long as he's alive. So
it's marvelous. You see him with the WEC and the IMSA. He's at every single WEC and IMSA race. He's not leaving until like that. But I do agree. There is talk that like under Penske's leadership, yes, he saved the series in a sense of like after the split, but it hasn't progressed in the sense that IndyCar has needed to progress as a series to not compete as F1, just to compete in North American motorsport. But yeah, I do agree. I do think it didn't help that was Penske the second time or this time around. But as previous in most recent years, but I do agree that IndyCar it's not reflecting good on IndyCar in a sense of just like as integrity in that series at the moment.
Yeah.
Thanks for that one, chaps. And I mean, it does seem like they've thrown the book at Penske a little bit because I mean, Power and Newgarden have been relegated to the back of the grid, I believe, and then haven't their strategists been banned for the rest of the season?
No, just for the month of May. They will be back after like, and in IndyCar when they say strategist, it's basically the race engineer, basically.
So that's like GP or Bono getting suspended. Yeah,
it's just race engineer and strategist is basically one job really in IndyCar.
Okay.
So it will be someone else in there because the engineering team is very small in IndyCar. It might be 2 or 3 people, so it might be the next person in line. The performance engineer will probably take over the job or something like. And it's usually the strategist race engineer is usually like the team manager or something like that. Like Cindric, he's over Penske's IndyCar team, and he was Newgarden's race strategist. So it's like usually someone high up in the team as a race engineer.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks for that clarification. So we're coming to the end of this episode of Shifting Happens, but it is everyone's favorite section. It is time for predictions, and we're going to do 2 sets of predictions. I'm going to go bold. We're going to predict the Monaco Grand Prix, and we're going to predict the Indy 500. I know the Indy 500 is the lottery, and you never know who's going to win, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do it anyway. I charge for that singing, by the way. So yeah, well, let's start with the Monaco Grand Prix. I still need a little bit more time on this one. So, Marshall, go ahead.
Marshall mute.
The anticlimactic Marshall.
Yeah. I needed time to think anyway. You know what?
I'll go. I have my picks.
All right, you go, Rory.
I think sorry, AJ. I think Ferrari are going nowhere at Monaco, so I'm going to go. I am going to go. I'll go Lando. I think he might spring. He might prove us all wrong. So I'll go Lando for the Indy 500. Oh God. I am going to say. I want to say Pato. I really want to say Pato for just to. But I feel like he's going to get overtaken on the last lap again. But I'm going to say Plo. I think Plo. If Plo gets the Indy 500, I think the season is well and truly over officially. But yeah, I'm going to say Plo for the Indy 500.
Okay, AJ, do you want to get your picks in?
Yeah, just before that, do you want to go through Fly's picks? Because Fly already put his picks in our chat.
Let's do that. So he's going Charles for Monaco, you brave boy, and Pato for Indy. Thank you very much. I'll put that on the list.
So here's the thing. I'm gonna go back into pure chaos. For the Indy, as much as I would love to see Pato or Palo win, I am gonna say Sato. I want Sato to win it, and I hope he does. And for the Monaco Grand Prix, this is going to be a tough one. I'm going to go with either one of the Ferraris or either one of the Williams, just cause it's Monaco. Anything can happen. Same like with the Indy 500.
I'm going to nail you down for a specific answer here because I've got my prediction vid to do. So,
okay. Let's go with. I want to say Alex, but Lewis.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Charles. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. All right. I have my picks. My picks are in. Okay. For the Monaco Grand Prix, I'm gonna do a top two. Okay. Actually, a top three. I'm gonna predict the whole top three. I'm gonna do the trifecta. Yeah, it's gonna be Scott Dixon, from Takuma Sato, and Marcus Ericsson.
That's for Indy. Okay.
Yep.
So you said Scott Dixon. Okay.
Scott Dixon.
Marshall, I have a Marcus Ericsson friend, and he is going through it right now. He will love that result at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was the best Andretti qualifier, so.
I'm just happy you have Sato in there, man.
Yeah, he's amazing. For Monaco, I'm going to go off the board and say George Russell.
Okay, there we go. By the way, we didn't do a video for Emilia Romagna, but I know that if I can remember correctly, Rory definitely got it right.
I got
Marshall,
it right.
Did you say Mac? No, you said Lando. He let you down again.
Shez got it right.
Shez got it right. Yeah, somebody else went Max, and it was Shez who got it right. Right, me. So I'm gonna go really boring. I mean, my prediction hit rate this year has been 0. So. Literally, if I say you're going to win the race, you're not going to win the race. So I apologize in advance, Oscar Piastri, because he was really good last year, but destiny was not on his side because Charles Leclerc was always going to win that race, in my view. As for the Indy 500, I'm torn between a few. Oh man. Who do I think? You know what? Let's go full chaos. Lights to flag. Robert Schwartzman. Let's just do it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Stingray Rob.
Oh, come on now. I mean, I would love to see Pato win it, but yeah. For the interest of having somebody different, I'm going to say Robert Schwartzman. As he's going to just surprise everyone and probably pass Pato on the last corner. And
It's
Where did
mad to
Ilott
think that-
qualify? I
Oh,
can't
he
remember.
didn't. He
Bottom
qualified
half.
mid-pack, I think.
Bottom half. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but it's mad to think, Marshall, that Robert Schwartzman has an Indy 500 pole and Will Power doesn't. It's
Does he not? That's
no,
unbelievable.
he has the most poles
Wow.
in the series, but
You
he
have
never.
to, if you've never seen it, you have to watch Will Power winning the Indy 500 in his first and only Indy 500 win. It is the greatest radio call ever. Like Formula One could never. It's so good.
All right, I'll check that out. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode and for listening. If you are listening on a listening platform such as Spotify, if you have enjoyed what you have heard, then please do give us a subscribe on YouTube, a follow on Spotify, 5-star reviews wherever you can give them to us would be greatly appreciated. If you enjoy what Marshall's about, you can find him Double Wave Yellow on Threads. If you enjoy what Rory's about, Rory Talks Motorsport on Instagram and Threads, and Rory Talks F1 on X. AJ Wall of Perceptions on Threads and Instagram, and Shiver Me Eaters on X. And you can find me, BaxTB, on X and BaxTB F1 on Threads. And you can find our brilliant producer, Fly Apex63, on X as well. And guys, until next time, stay safe, and we shall speak to you all very, very soon.